What's up, y'all? So I'm down here in Charleston, South Carolina. Christy and I, we just pulled into town, and today we're gonna do some fishing. But before we do that, there's somebody on this channel that we need to introduce. This is Capt CA Richardson, you guys. CA, you are a lot taller
in person.
Real life.
Yes.
People tell me that I'm shorter when they meet me in person.
They always say that I'm taller when they meet me in person.
Look at this.
Scale-wise, when we're doing the show, most people see me on a polling platform, so I'm never really up in the front standing next to a guest, so there's no way to measure me.
That's right.
But once I get down to ground level and I'm standing next to someone,
I gotta hold the camera out further.
I'm full grown.
That's right.
I'm full grown. And I'm getting bigger every day. I'm just not getting any taller. I'm just getting a little bigger this way.
I love it. So you guys, what we're gonna do for y'all is we're gonna do an inshore. So hopefully y'all like these tutorials that we've been doing. However, if y'all have never heard of FlatsClassTV, it's on Waypoint. It's a free app. You can download it on your phone. CA also has a YouTube channel called FlatsClassTV.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so, but y'all, if y'all love these tutorials, y'all love learning about inshore fishing, first of all, CA is, I don't throw this term around lightly, he's the OG, okay, of inshore flats fishing. He's based in Florida. He's
Old guy?
No, that would be the original gangster.
Oh yeah, see that's the generation.
Not the old
gap,
guy.
Right.
All right, you guys, so what we're gonna do today with Capt CA Richardson here is we're gonna do like almost like, you know, it's boat show season, so you guys are like enjoying these seminars and everything like that. Capt CA Richardson is a great teacher. So this can apply to Snook, tarpon, where, you know, CA's down in Florida, also speckled trout, redfish, flounder, everything like that. So, CA.
You brought the kitchen sink, young
man. I did. Well, we're not gonna go through, we just kind of wanna.
You did bring the kitchen sink.
So, let's talk, yesterday I heard you talking about like how you fish these diesel minnows right here.
Yeah, diesel minnows have a lot. They have a lot of. First of all, you know, all the Z-Man stuff is made from a proprietary material called elastec, so it's almost indestructible.
Okay.
But because it has those super strong, super soft properties, you see how much action the baits have with very little movement. I'm barely moving my hand, and the thing swings. In cold water, a lot of the action on most plastics are diminished quite a bit, and they're diminished because they're made out of plastisol, so the durometer of the bait's so hard the baits don't want to swim as easy. These are great for cold water fishing.
Gotcha.
Tropical situations too. The versatility of like a 4-inch diesel minnows is great. You can head weight it for longer casts and to fish a little bit deeper, and then you just adjust the jig head weight to how deep you really need to fish or how strong current is. Many times in Florida where I'm fishing, shallow flats where we're sight fishing, we rig these with rigging hooks. And rigging hooks are what you see in the bass community. Some of them are keel weighted with various weights, and what it does is it allows the bait to fall horizontally through the water column instead of head first, so it's a much slower fall. You can work them over oyster bars. You can skip them much easier under docks or under mangrove shorelines, so they give you a lot of versatility. Almost every estuary you're going to fish, Jeff, they're going to have a 4-inch minnow of some type.
Right.
I mean, this is the Creole croaker look, so this looks very pilchard, very glass minnow-like, very bunker-like.
Yeah.
So this is a super popular color with them. I love the string glitter because it gives it a real scaly look. But they have probably about 8 different size paddle tails when you start really breaking it down at Z-Man. They've got them all.
Well, you fish this for tarpon as well sometimes, like juvenile tarpon?
Juvenile tarpon. Right. Juvenile tarpon, that's a good bait. That's a better bait for snook and redfish, and even trout for where we live. But a 4-inch size is kind of the standard. It's kind of the size that you start everyone off on.
Right.
Because once you start getting below that size profile, then you're going to be inundated with a lot smaller fish that you would be pestered by. If you're looking for action, sure, start off with a 3-inch. But if you're looking for fish that are a little bit bigger, or what the Cajuns call keepas,
I love it.
You start off with a 4.
Cool. So, and then your action. So you're saying sometimes with this, like, because Christy and I, we're bouncing these a lot, but you also like to power fish.
I do.
And steady retrieve.
So it depends on depth. You have to bounce them a little bit if you're fishing a little bit deeper water, because it's hard to get the bait to track on a straight line. What I like to do, because most of the fishing that I do is in 4 foot or shallower is I make a presentation where I make a long cast and then I put the rod tip down if I want it deeper, or I'll put the rod tip attitude up if I want it a little shallower, and I just reel it, because most baits just swim like that. They don't swim up and down. I don't want to make it hard. I want them to get behind it and follow it. I don't want them to get a good look at it. I don't want them, I don't want them following something down and then it bouncing back up and spooking them. But in my water, the water's clear in most cases, and their spatial awareness is like very acute, and there's a lot of people living in Florida, so they're very pressured. So static retrieves in my region work best.
Gotcha.
They work best.
What would you say that would be similarities between targeting and tactics between all your inshore species?
I would say if there's one common thread that I preach to clients is be the bait. Okay? And what I mean by be the bait is if you're fishing something that is supposed to look like a crustacean, well, crustaceans don't bounce all over and swim and make these fast movements. Use more rod movements and less reeling. If you're fishing a minnow pattern, make it look like a minnow. Make it swim. Don't make it bounce all over the place. Those are the 2 rules. To consistently catch fish day in and day out, you have to figure out how to make it the fish's idea to eat it. So many of us are trying to impose our will, throw a particular color, throw a particular bait that always seems like that's our favorite, but in many cases it will not work. That's why I experiment all the time.
So how would you rank in inshore fishing, say, when you go to a new area? Like if you're scouting out a new area.
A new zone, which I'm accustomed to doing quite a bit.
Are you looking for and ranking, okay, there's a current seam over that oyster bar, there's laydowns over there, there's mangroves over there, like
structure. Probably the number one thing that tips me more than anything else is bird life. I look to see where the birds are. If I see wading birds, if I see stalking birds, if I see pelicans, if I see ospreys, those are the first clues to let me know where bait is, because those birds make a living off feeding off bait. I need to know where the bait is. The next probably clue that I'm looking for is then the bait itself. Am I seeing mullet? Am I seeing glass minnow sprays? Am I seeing popping shrimp down a marsh shoreline? That's my next clue. Once I find that zone, then I start looking for the structure within that zone that likely will, is it a point? Is it a cove? Is it a creek mouth? Is it hard structures such as lime rock or shell bars or something like that? Then I'll look for those. And depth contour edges. Those are all places where you'll have slow and fast water, like you said, a current seam. But I don't fish those unless I know food's there, or I flip a switch on some electronics, and you've got the side vision coming off the Raymarine, and you're like, oh wow, I just lit up a big ball of bait there, and if they're not as obvious. So those are the progressions I go through. But bird life tells you a lot.
For sure.
I mean, you see white wading birds, you see herons, you see ibis, you know that they're eating something that fish will eat.
I love it because as fishermen, we become bird watchers.
Yes.
And we seriously.
You have to be aware of everything.
Yeah, because even just the way pelicans fly, like if you see them just cruising and they're going somewhere, or you see them looking down, then that's, you
can tell the size of the bait by the way a pelican dives. If he makes shallow, quick dives, it's smaller. If he has to get up higher and make the huge careening falcon dive, the bait is deeper and bigger. Because he needs to get down there to get it. So there are lots of clues to understanding. And then that'll give you an idea. Even there's surface signatures, if you will, that will teach you what type of fish are there. Like, for instance, when ladyfish get on a big feed on what I call sizzle bait or fry bait, when they strike, they push water. So you'll see these breaks on the surface where the water goes in one direction, almost like a chug bait. Well, those are ladyfish. You know they're not anything but ladyfish. They're not jacks. They're not anything else. They're ladyfish. And then you'll see plumes of smoke if you're fishing shallow water where fish have lifted and taken off. If the smoke looks like a miniature atomic bomb, well, that was a game fish. It was probably a redfish or a snook. Trout don't leave those smoke offs. They kind of slink off, and it's usually like a trail of mud. And so do the mullet when they lay in there, and the bigger hog leg mullets kind of swim off the black mullet. So you start recognizing that. And then the wakes are different too. Like sheep's head, for instance, will S-curve and they look confused and they never pick a direct direction. So you know it's a sheep's head. And the wake is a little narrower.
Right.
Where a redfish wake, when they push, it's a deliberate wake in one direction. It's usually got a bigger head to the wake and a hollow spot behind it, so you instantly know it's a redfish wake, not a mullet wake, because mullet will take off and do that too.
Yeah.
But they won't go in a straight line. They'll break off in different, and their wakes are more nervous. Even when they're swimming, their wakes shake more like that. But that's all experience. Sometimes I'll have clients get confused. They're like, "Oh, there's a wake. It's steady and it's moving right at us." I go, "Yeah, it's stingray wake." How do you know that? I was like, because it's rounded.
Right.
It's spread out more. And they're like, I was like, when you look at it every day, it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
So, okay, now let's talk about like the generalities of when you're going redfish fishing. You're targeting redfish today. And these can be like super quick, very basic, like redfish, you're mainly looking for this. Tarpon, you're mainly looking for this. Like inshore, we're not talking about like big tarpon out.
Right. Typically low light fishing in the morning when we're tarpon fishing, we're looking for them coming up and sipping on the surface. They'll roll. They leave that tail swirl at the surface, then go back down. You see them roll a lot early in the morning, so that's usually a good play for understanding where they're going to be. They're usually in a place where it's a little bit deeper with shallow water close by. We find them in creek basins where there's like a back bay, the smaller juvenile tarpon. That's typically where we find them in the winter months. Redfish, a little bit different. Redfish don't move around a whole lot where I live. Mm-hmm. You can catch them on the beach. You can catch them in residential canals.
Right.
You can catch them on the flats. You can catch them almost anywhere, but typically when we're fishing them on the flat, we find them to kind of tag along with big schools of mullet. They use the mullet for a variety of reasons. They use them as an awareness burglar alarm for the porpoise. They use them as a way to feed, because they'll mix in with the mullet, and the mullet are bumping and rubbing the bottom and they're making crabs scurry and shrimp jump out of the way and pinfish flush, and they'll sit there and they'll snack behind them.
Right.
So they use them a lot as a way to disturb food. So it's kind of interesting to see how when fish interact with other fish is a big tip, and those fish are a little bit easier to figure out, because when I fish for trout don't move around a whole lot.
Right.
You know, they don't. It's like I either fish for school trout or I fish for gator trout. And gator trout for me is typically a winter, early spring deal, moving into mid-spring, and then I fish shallow for them. If I fish for bigger trout any other time, I'm fishing much deeper.
How about snook?
Snook is an interesting creature. It's subtropical in nature, so the summer months, we focus on the passes and inlets in my state, and that's where they are because of the spawn. And you'll catch them within 500 to 1,000 yards on either side of the pass on the beaches when the tide's not real strong. In the winter months, they seek out a temperature refuge. They cannot tolerate temps that are below 60 degrees for any length of time. So you'll find them in rivers, in springs, deeper turning basins where shipping is. So you can target them. So those are the two extremes. Now, the two transition periods, which would be spring and fall, you'll find them on flats. You'll find them in just areas that you don't anticipate seeing them for a long period of time. They'll be there for like 2 weeks. You can target them, and then they're moving. They're getting closer to the beach, or they're getting closer to their winter haunts.
Right.
You catch a lot of smaller fish in the backcountry. You don't catch nearly as many big fish as you would think.
Right.
Most of the big fish are caught in urban areas. I mean, big cities. I mean, they're dinosaurs. They live in shipping channels, and they live in deeper water, and they're tougher to catch. I mean, because they're typically the type of fish that only feed at night, and they feed on giant baits. They don't even hardly ever look at a small bait. The few times where we really get what we call a true monster snook that has been on my flats boat, because most of my fishing is shallow, is wintertime, and we're fishing with small lures, and they just happen to be up sunning, trying to soak up heat. So they'll come out of a deep spot, and they'll get up on a mud bar, and they're just sitting up there, and they turn almost black to draw heat into them. And if you're fishing toward the end of the day and you're swimming a small little mud minnow pattern or something like that, you catch one. I think in the last 5 or 6 years, we've probably caught about 6 or 7 of them over 40 inches.
Wow.
Doing just that. But I don't put myself in the position to catch the giants like the guys do on the East Coast and the big metro areas and things like that. You'd be surprised. Some of the biggest snook in Florida are caught with condo buildings all in the background.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So anything else for like just generalities that you look for in your inshore fish?
In my inshore fishing, I always tell every client, I was like, do not wait for the perfect day to go fishing. Go when you can go.
Right.
And in many cases, the days when no one else wants to go fishing is the day that you should go fishing. The only time I really use weather to predict fish is this time of year, because I know the warm-ups matter because fish are cold-blooded. But the rest of the time, I just go fishing. You got to have 3 things. You got to have current, you got to have structure, and you got to have bait.
Right.
So you got to find a zone that has those 3 elements.
Yeah.
You'll always be successful.
Awesome. Anything else for help locate?
I'll tell you what, I'm really intrigued by one fish, two fish. So some of my fans that are watching this, you got to follow this couple. I mean, they're a fun couple. They do fun fishing. They're always having a good time. So I think one fish, two fish could probably teach me a little bit more about having fun on the water.
I don't know. We'll have to see that. I hope that we can get out and go fishing with you.
It'll happen one day, I promise.
So you guys, we just did a podcast with CA as well, so y'all check that out.
Yeah, the FlatsClass podcast will start in February, so you'll see that episode soon. This is mid-January, so mid-February you'll start seeing it.
Where can they find that?
They're going to be able to find that on waypointtv.com.
Okay.
Also, we're going to try to put it on SoundCloud and Spotify.
Perfect.
So
awesome. All right, y'all. That's CA Richardson, OG of inshore flats fishing.
Quit calling me an old guy.